This is in reference to Billy's Talking Points memo from Monday, February 9th, 2015, where Billy declares, is Obama the most polarizing chief executive in U.S. history? And he goes on to cite a poll from Gallup, which recently came out, that indicated that, I believe, 79% of all Democrats were approving of Obama, whereas only 9% of all Republicans are approving of Obama. I don't know where the nitty-gritty falls in there. But that's what he said. So obviously he's the most polarizing figure, chief executive in U.S. history. But I like to point out that is there disapproval based on the question, do you approve or disapprove? Hey, he's not doing a good job. But when you ask the individual, what about individual types of things that are going on in the administration in terms of what Obama is working for, his approval rates go up a little bit, especially among Republicans, especially if they don't even know that that's what Obama is advocating. If they were asked that, oh, the Republicans are advocating this, oh yes, I want this. But enough of that crap. But I would like to point out that in that same Gallup poll, which came out, I do believe, last week, was that in 1 month's time, Obama's job approval rating overall went up 6%. His handling of the unemployment issue went up 7%, 1 month. And his overall handling of the economy went up 4%. All positive numbers, all in 1 month for Obama. And those were before the Friday job report. So, and of course, the job report, I think we had 250,000 jobs, something, I can't remember offhand. God, it was only a couple of days ago, and I already forgot. But there were a number of jobs. But the unemployment rate did go up from 5.6 to 5.7%. And if I'm not mistaken, that's the first thing Fox put on the air when the job numbers came out. Not that there were more jobs out there, not that take-home pay had increased slightly, etc. Now, also in the job reports was that many Americans also feel that the recovery has passed them by. And, of course, Billy brings up about this whole thing is that the two things that are going to be looking for in the election coming up is going to be, number one, take-home pay, and number two, the jihad. Now, of course, Billy's got to go right into the jihad because that's all he's got to talk about. He's not going to talk about take-home pay. He's not going to talk about trying to have some type of stimulus where we can get some infrastructure spending for bridges, tunnels, roads, highways, etc. He's not going to talk about increasing the minimum wage. No, he's not going to do that. He's just going to bring fear factor back in. Let me bring the fear factor back in. Let me bring in the jihad. So he refers to some guy named Flynn, who was the head of the DIA, Defense Intelligence Agency, at some particular point, I guess until about last year, who comes on, of course, Fox News. He's not coming on anywhere else. So I would assume that they brought him on because they knew what his views were before then. They knew that he had a right slant to all of this type of stuff. And of course, Flynn goes on to talk about, what is Obama's strategy. And I'm going, why don't you, Flynn, you tell us what your strategy is. What is your strategy? What exactly are you going to do to defeat the jihad, at least according to Billy? And of course he talks about Obama's lack of urgency. That's what Billy talked about. I mean, maybe Flynn talked about that. And he also talked about that we need someone who has moral intelligence, intellectual courage, and clarity. And I'm going, hey, Huckabee's got all that stuff. He comes out there, what was his last great line? That global warming, it's like a little bit of a sunburn on your head. Will you get a little bit more of a sunburn? But, the thing about a strategy is you have to analyze the strategy every day. You have to look at it and see if it's working. Then if you have to change the strategy, you have to change your tactics as to how you can achieve your overall objective. These are things that are being done every single day by thousands of people in the Defense Department in terms of what's going on with ISIL and any other type of radical people anywhere in the world. Because remember, we have things going on with Ukraine right now. That's sort of reaching a critical standpoint. Same thing with Iran. That's reaching a critical standpoint. We're still trying to work with Pakistan because they had their own little 9/11 when 132 high school kids were slaughtered last month or the month before. And they're going to come down much further on radical people in their country. And so there's a lot going on. And of course we talk about moral clarity, and I'm just going, where, this comes up. You see, the idea of this whole thing of saying something like that is to basically say that Obama is not morally superior. He doesn't have courage. He doesn't have clarity. He's not intellectually, smart enough to do all this stuff. And it's all bogus, because Billy won't define what the strategy should be. He says, let's just get a couple 100,000 men. Let's go in there and slaughter them all. Who cares? If whatever collateral damage, let's go. He doesn't care about how many Americans are going to be killed. He doesn't care about anything. How much have we held back? How much more can we do? How much could we do if we had a better partner on the ground in terms of Iraq? How much better could we do if the Peshmerga could become a bigger army in the area? Of course, if then they get a big army like that, they're going to want independence. And of course, that's something that Turkey doesn't want. Syria, who cares what they care about right now? But remember, the Kurds are a race of people. They're in Turkey, they're in Syria, they're in Iran, they're in Iraq. They'd like to have their own country. And of course, people don't want us to arm them as much as we might like to arm them. Turkey doesn't want to get involved in helping the Kurds out at all. So the Shiites don't want to get involved in the Sunni aspect of it all. So there's a lot going on. But, again, Billy, Obama's job approval is going up. Things are looking better in the economy. We haven't turned the tide against ISIL. We are moving aggressively and as fast as we possibly can. Remember, if we went in and slaughtered them all, who's going to take over? Are we going to take over the thing? We're going to do the same thing we did in Iraq? And look what a great job we did at getting that country back on its feet all over again. Thanks, Billy. Where is your strategy?